Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk for an Unreal World. In this episode, I want to talk about and bring an awareness to the ability to take time for self-realization. And by doing that, we must observe parts of us that we would like to build more of a relationship with. And by that, I mean taking a look at the things that you don't like about yourself or the person that you were and evolving into somebody new by giving those parts of yourself that you don't like time, attention, and energy to grow into that human that you want to become. I have been doing this lately. I've felt very off for the last couple weeks, if I'm to be honest, because that's what this podcast is basically to share about the experiences that I go through in my life as I'm a human experiment of an evolution of self. That's kind of what I look at my life as. And yeah, I've been off for the last couple of weeks. I've been going through some, transitions, like just feeling very awkward about myself. And it was frustrating at first to really spend quite a bit of time observing myself and this what was happening inside of me. And I've been able now to put that into words as to what was happening. And I feel like it's a maturity. There's parts of me from my addiction, that I never allowed to grow. I stayed almost in a childlike state of immaturity, I guess, where I didn't have to really focus on my responsibilities and, an example of what I want to be, because I just was being this rebellious version of myself that I had created to show people that I had something going on inside of me. Like that was the way I was trying to communicate about that, by rebelling against society and hurting myself. But now that I've gone through this process of self-healing, and I mean, the journey is continuous right to the end, but I'm practicing in my daily life a realization of the parts of me that never healed, and I'm beginning to heal those. You see a sense of maturity happening within you. And I don't think you need to have a past as a drug addict to have these feelings, this growth within you. I think you just have to have a will to be looking at the parts of you that need to be healed and giving that a time, attention, and energy with love, unconditional love. When I find parts of myself that I'm not happy with, I don't beat myself up for it. There's no self-sabotage, there's no self-abuse. I just see how I arrived at acting a certain way, or behaviors or patterns that don't align with who I am today. I see what brought me there, and I'm okay with it, because I can't change the past. And there was a lot of information and education that I never had before this journey that I do have now. So I can't beat myself up for tools and information that I didn't have when I would have liked to. We have to just appreciate that and accept that. So rather than beat myself up for tools and information that I didn't have, I just apply the tools and information that I have today, and I see that part of me as allowing myself to love that part of myself that didn't have that information and tools at that time. And I think that that's an important part of an evolution, is to be able to love ourselves in times of confusion. Because when we don't have the education or information, how are we expected to grow? I mean, you can only grow with what you know, with what you have. And a lot of people have said to me, I'd like to be further along in my self-healing process or my evolution. We always have to remember we're right where we need to be. I look at myself 3 years ago, just to who I was when I woke up, and I decided to see myself as an example of love. I decided to love myself, really, and step out into the world in that way. Who I am today, 3.5 years later, is a completely different person, really. I still have the core fundamental of love within me, but that love is blossoming, and it's taking me into places that still have trauma. There's still darkness in there, and that's okay, because once we accept the light, we now have something to go into these parts of ourselves that we don't like with, a tool. The light is just a tool, because the light is understanding, awareness, forgiveness, compassion, empathy, kindness to self. The darkness is self-sabotage, self-abuse, self-criticism, judgment of self. those are practices that hold us back. So if we accept this light into our life, you're not going to have it all figured out overnight. And part of myself from 3 years ago figured that I would. And I'm okay to talk about that because, I've been alleviated from this pattern of thinking, this habitual way of life for 23 years. And I step outside and I'm like, I'm a new person. I'm going to take over the world. When really we have to be patient for what we don't know. The feeling is something that you have to grow within you through understanding. So I decided to do that. And that's where I say my life is an experiment and my life is an example of what you can do. Because I put attention, time, and energy into myself to grow this feeling of awareness. This awareness for unconditional love of myself, which allows me to love the parts of myself that don't serve me anymore today and grow into more of an understanding of who I want to be tomorrow by being that in the present moment. That's everything. I really want you to take a minute and think about that. The past is just there to teach us that we might not have had all the information and the tools that we needed, and that's okay. It's fine to not have the information and the tools. But the beautiful part about coming into conversations like this, where we can learn more education that we can apply into our life that help us grow within and alleviate us from traumas that we've been holding on to because we didn't know how to process them. That's everything. That's so beautiful to be able to have these moments. But these moments happen because you put the time, attention, and energy into yourself to make them happen. And how do you do that? How do you find these parts of yourself that you don't like because you've been distracting from them for so long? You have to peel back layers. So I'll give you an example. For myself, recently I haven't had a cigarette or a drink for 3 months. I never was drinking heavily or anything like that, just casual, it was something that I had found acceptable. But I started to contemplate, what is my attachment to this? Smoking is just poor for the health, poor for the mind, poor for the soul. Drinking, poor for the mind, poor for the health, poor for the soul. So what has me want to have a drink? And the drink is what led me to have a cigarette. In most cases, they went hand in hand. Well, it was because I was hiding from parts of me that needed to be loved. To be absolutely honest with you, that's what it was. I needed to heal a part of me that was okay being in stillness, just being with myself, allowing myself to just appreciate what was going on around me and not being thrown into a depressive state, because alcohol and cigarettes are a depressant. That's a reality. They are socially acceptable, absolutely, because the people around us all find it socially acceptable. So therefore, we find it socially acceptable. But you really have to understand yourself, and that's part of what self-realization is really asking yourself these questions. What has me attached to certain things that are not good for me? Same with high sugar and high fat foods. It's the same thing. Same with cell phones. Social media. If you find yourself constantly lost inside of Instagram for 3 or 4 hours, ask yourself what you're looking for in there, or what you should be looking for within yourself. What has you attached to these things? That's how you find the root of the problem. You observe yourself. For most, it's just anxiety. It's judgment. It's, being somebody that they're not. But if you're looking for that somewhere else, or you're distracting from that, you're never actually practicing to become that person that you want to be. And if that person that you want to be is honest and kind and empathetic, then use life as an opportunity to become that person. Every experience. You go to work, to the job that pays you money, and you use every single experience as an opportunity to grow more into that human being that you want to become. That's what I've done. That's what I've been doing. I don't always get it right. It's taken me time. But now that I'm aware enough to know that I want to grow into the human that I want to become, I'm able to practice that every day because I'm aware. I catch myself. Maybe I cut somebody off when they're talking. That's not who I want to be. I practice patience when listening to another individual. But sometimes I make mistakes and I do that. So I just allow it, catch myself, and I apply it to the next opportunity to attempt it again, to be better. And that's how you do it. That's a practice of life. You're constantly observing yourself and therefore applying that observation and research and practice into your life. You are an experiment. You're an opportunity to become whoever you want. We just need to alleviate ourselves of the belief systems or the learned behaviors that we have amalgamated into our being to be this person we are today. But we can be anyone we want to be. So that's important. And that's what I've been doing. And somebody recently asked me, what does this podcast mean to me? Like what does it represent? And it represents just that. An ability to talk about the things that hold us back, or to strip away all of the masks that we put on to show people that we are a certain way. I don't do that. I want to show people I am who I am, all of the struggles, all of the difficulties, but all of the beauty, because that's what makes me, and that's what makes all of us us. It's just if we're willing to be able to step out and share from that perspective. But question that. How can you not share from that perspective? If you are not able to talk about these things with the people you surround yourself with, take a look at the people you surround yourself with. It's really important to do that. Because to grow, you've got to have other people around you that have that same motive, that same motivation to do that in their life. Because that's, you grow as a collective, right? And we need to really evaluate that. A lot of people struggle to be somewhere they're not, but it's usually a result of what's going on around them and the headspace that they put themselves in. So nobody sets boundaries but you. Nobody holds you back but you. You just need to be aware of that and accountable for it. And I've become accountable for that in my life, and I've stripped away everything that does not serve me. So I've just pulled it all away. And I want to be left in this moment of uncertainty, like the fear of the unknown, they call it. For me, it's the excitement of the unknown. I'm entering areas of my life that I've never given attention to before, and you'd think, like, I'm 40 years old. I've had 40 years to become somebody that I'm now letting go of and becoming somebody new. That's life. That's the evolution of self. That's how we become who we want to be. We don't just allow life to carry on and not do anything we want to do within our own lives. If you put as much time and energy into yourself, into the inner workings of who you are, as you do to become a doctor or a lawyer, or as to learn your job, you're going to become who you want to be very quickly. We just don't value it the same way. So value is everything. So I've turned my attention inward on myself again recently, and I have given myself some time to really integrate with this maturity that I'm coming into. And I appreciate everyone for listening to my podcast and listening to the experiences that I've gone through. And I always am under the belief that the information that and experience that I've gone through the education will help you in your life in some way. That's how we grow. That's how we learn from each other, is to really see how other people are doing it. Just really take a look at, what surrounds you and who you want to become, and see if that aligns. And if that doesn't align, then remove that from around you, because that'll give you time to look inwards and really start to look at the parts of you that don't serve you anymore, or that you would like to give more attention to grow through, and use every opportunity in life to do that. That's what this is. That's life. We're not here to grow bank accounts and get titles and be better than other people. That's ego. Really, you're building a relationship with ego, because you're able to say that there's parts of me that I'm not actually comfortable with, and that's okay. So ego is balancing out at this point. There's no judgment of self. There's just realization that parts of me need to grow through something that I didn't understand before. Just a small piece of information that I'd like to share with everyone this week, and just really share like what's going on with me. That's why I've found it difficult, to be honest with you, to stay consistent on social media, because I feel like social media doesn't even serve me anymore. I know putting the information from the clips out from the podcast is beautiful. I always get wonderful remarks from from the clips, and they're helping people in their lives, and I'm so grateful for that. And I do need to remember that giving time and energy to that is helping other people as well. But sometimes I got to take a step back myself and just be like, look, this is becoming difficult for me to do. So it's like work. So when it's like work, it's a challenge to get it done. So I've been aware of that, highly aware of that recently, and just allowing myself to take time to grow. And that's okay. I love this podcast. I love what it's going to be, and I love just growing through it. But I also need to be very honest about where I'm at and the things that I go through in my life. Because if we're not living life from an honest perspective, are we living a lie? Are we okay with living a lie? That should be the first thing that you ask yourself, because I got tired of that. I got tired of pretending. And really, I was pretending for other people because I was lying to myself. So that's what has me pretend for other people, is because I didn't want to self-realize and self-actualize what was going on in my life that I needed time and attention for. So I really appreciate everyone. My social media is Real Talk for an Unreal World. That's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, all podcast platforms you can find my stuff on if you're watching on YouTube. My Twitter is Real Talk 4 Unreal, and my Gmail is realtalkforanunrealworld@gmail.com. You can email me if you got questions or anything that you're trying to get through in your life. I use my life as an experiment, so I am going through all of the things that I talk about, and I've been through all of the things that I have talked about in the previous episodes, which I would encourage you to check out if you are on a journey of awareness. I've had some great response lately from people that were going back into the early episodes and having them tell me that they're working for them as well. So that's really wonderful. Enjoy your week. Enjoy yourself. Be kind to yourself, and just love life every day by waking up and being thankful that you're here to have an opportunity to grow more into love. Much love.